Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing great today. In this video, I'm going to show you how to jailbreak your PS5 using a specific game. I'm keeping everything simple and straight to the point so you can follow along easily and get it done quickly. So, without wasting any more time, let's get right into the tutorial. Before we get started, at the time this video is being made, there are currently 3 known methods to jailbreak the PS5. The first method is the simplest one, using the built-in browser. However, this only works on firmware versions from 3.00 up to 5.50. The second method involves using a Blu-ray disc that's been burned with a jar loader script. This is the most complicated method since it requires a Blu-ray drive and a writable Blu-ray disc. This method works on firmware 3.00 up to 7.61. And finally, the third method, which is a bit simpler than the Blu-ray method, is by using a specific game. These are games built with the Artemis engine, which allows us to load an arbitrary Lua file. This method works on firmware 3.00 through 8.00. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to use this third method. Okay, first, let's get the game ready. Here are the games that support Lua scripting. The list might grow in the future if more Artemis engine-based games are discovered. All of the titles currently known are Japanese games, and you'll need a physical copy of the disc. But don't worry, you can order them from Japanese online stores. I'll include the links in the video description. I already have one of the supported games here, and this is the title. You can also use the digital version of the game, but only if it was already installed while your PS5 was still on firmware 3.0 to 8.0. Next, we'll need a save game that's already been patched with the Lua script. Creating a patched save game from scratch is a bit tricky, so we'll use one that's already been made by Master S9. His save files come in the form of a full PS5 backup, which we'll restore to the console. Inside that backup, there are patched save files containing the Lua script for all supported games from number 1 to 8. As for games number 9 and 10, he hasn't made patched saves for those yet, probably because they're still new. But let's be patient. Hopefully, he'll release them soon too. One last note. For those of you on firmware 8.00, as of this video, the Lua script files haven't been made public yet, but they might be released in the coming days. Once they are, you'll be able to follow this tutorial even if you're on firmware 8.00. And based on a tweet from EchoStretch, there's a possibility that this Lua game jailbreak method could later be implemented up to firmware version 10.01. So there's a high chance this tutorial will also work for systems running firmware up to 10.01. Now we're ready to start the jailbreak process. For that, let's switch over to the PS5. The first and most important thing, especially for those of you jailbreaking your PS5 for the first time, is to disable the automatic system software updates. To do this, go to the Settings menu, then select System, and choose System Software. From there, go to System Software Update and Settings, and make sure to turn off both options. We're doing this to prevent the PS5 from updating automatically when connected to the internet. For the same reason, we also need to set a custom DNS, called Nomadic DNS, when connecting the PS5 to the internet. This DNS will block the PS5 from accessing Sony's servers. Here's how you do it. Still in the Settings menu, go to Network, then select Settings underneath. If it's not already on, enable Connect to the Internet, then choose Set up Internet Connection. Next, select your network, either LAN cable or Wi-Fi. In my case, I'm using Wi-Fi. Once connected, press the Options button and choose Advanced Settings. Scroll to DNS Settings, select Manual, and enter the following Nomadic DNS IP address as the primary DNS. Once you're done, press OK. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier, my PS5 is currently on firmware 5.50, but as mentioned in the title, this tutorial can be applied to any firmware between 3.00 and 8.xx. Alright, let's move on. Since we're going to restore the PS5 backup file made by Master S9 that we downloaded earlier, I recommend backing up your own PS5 data first. This is because the restore process will overwrite all current data with the one from Master S9's backup. So if you still want to keep your save data, this is your chance. But if you don't need it, you can skip this backup step. To make a backup, first plug in a USB drive to your PS5. Make sure it's formatted to exFAT and has enough storage space. Then go back to Settings. Select System and go to System Software. From there, scroll down and choose Backup and Restore. Now select Backup your PS5 and then click Yes. You'll see several options of what you can back up. To speed up the process, I'll only back up the save data, since that's the most important part. Once you've made your selection, click Next, and finally click Backup to start the backup process. Now just wait for it to complete. Once it's done, click OK, and your PS5 will restart automatically. Now remove the USB drive from your PS5 and plug it into your computer. On the USB drive, you should see a folder named PS5, which contains the backup files and folder structure. Just copy the entire PS5 folder to your computer so you don't have to worry about rearranging anything later when we restore it back to the PS5. You can compress the folder too if you'd like. Alright, the PS5 data backup process is complete. Now let's move on to the jailbreak stage. First, let's copy the backup file we downloaded earlier to the USB drive. We'll start by deleting the backup file we created earlier from the USB. Then, extract the compressed backup file we got online. Inside, you'll find a folder named PS5. Make sure to copy that entire folder, not just its contents, because the folder structure needs to stay exactly as is for the PS5 to detect it as a valid backup. Let's wait for the copy process to finish. Once that's done, eject the USB drive from your computer and plug it back into the PS5. Now, still in the System Software section under Settings, go back to Backup and Restore, but this time choose Restore your PS5. Select the backup file from the USB drive and hit Restore. Confirm with Yes and wait for the restore process to complete. Your PS5 will restart automatically. Once the PS5 has rebooted, you can unplug the USB drive. Let's now verify that the patched Lua save files are in place. To do that, go to Settings, Storage, Console Storage, Save Data. Then select PS4 Games. Here, you'll see all the patched Lua save game files. Technically, you can delete any save files for games you don't own. Just make sure you know which ones you need so you don't accidentally delete the wrong file. In my case, I'll just leave them all for now. Okay, now let's go back to the PS5 home screen. Insert your physical Lua game disk. Since this is the first time running the game, we need to wait until the installation is complete. Once the game is fully installed, just a quick note, most of these Lua-based games will automatically trigger the jailbreak process as soon as you launch them. However, a few might require you to manually load the save file from the Load Game menu to trigger the exploit. In our case, this particular game will automatically run the Lua script and start the jailbreak. Alright, let's launch the game now. As you can see, the jailbreak process starts right away. Wait for it to finish. You'll know it's done when you see the ETA notification appear and then disappear. After that, the game will automatically close, bringing you back to the home screen. Now, just a quick note. On the very first time you trigger the jailbreak, the GoldHEN payload notification won't appear immediately. After the initial notification disappears, you need to wait a few more seconds. If the GoldHEN notification hasn't shown up yet, that means the jailbreak process is still running in the background. Just be patient and don't do anything until you see it pop up. But in this video, I already went straight to the settings menu. And now, as you can see, the ETA notification just popped up. This means the jailbreak process is now fully complete. On future jailbreak activations, however, the ItemZflow payload notification will appear at the same time as the initial message, right at the very end of the process. Now let me show you what it looks like when activating the jailbreak for the second time. As you can see here, the ItemZflow payload notification appears right at the end, just like I mentioned. That means our PlayStation 5 has successfully been jailbroken. If we go into the settings menu, you'll now see debug settings all the way at the bottom, along with the full ItemZflow toolbox. At this point, you're now able to install homebrew apps, run backup games for both PS4 and PS5, and do a whole range of things that are normally not possible on a non-jailbroken PS5. Alright? Up next, we'll install a homebrew app and try launching some PS4 and PS5 backups. So now, let's head over to the computer. Alright, I'm now on the website that provides homebrew applications for PS5 and PS4. One essential homebrew app you absolutely need to install on your jailbroken PS5 is ItemZflow. This app functions as a game manager, and you'll need it to run PS5 backup games. While there is another game manager app called Homebrew Launcher, the setup for that one is a bit more complicated, so in this tutorial, we'll stick with ItemZflow. But if you're curious and want to learn how to use Homebrew Launcher instead, you can check out my other tutorial video right here. Click here to download the PS5 version of ItemZflow. Next, we're also going to install the PS5 Xplorer app. This one acts as a file manager, which can be quite useful for certain tasks, including payload updates, which I'll cover at the end of the video. Now, about the backup games. I've already prepared backup copies of both PS5 and PS4 games. Let me explain a bit about the difference. PS4 backup games come in PKG file format, just like homebrew apps. To play them, you simply install the PKG files. However, PS5 backups, at the time of this video, still come in folder format containing multiple files, just like how PS3 backups used to be. To run PS5 backup games, you need to launch them through a game manager app like ItemZflow. I'll show you how to do that in a bit. Also keep in mind, most PS5 backup games can only be played from external storage, and the best external storage to use is an SSD because of its high transfer rate. The higher the transfer rate, the better. If you use a regular hard disk drive, it can negatively affect the visual quality during gameplay. Okay, everything's ready. I've also connected the SSD to my computer, so let's copy all the files to it. Done. Now safely eject the SSD from your computer and plug it into your PS5. If you're using an SSD as the storage for PS5 backup games, make sure to plug it into the rear USB port or the front USB Type-C port of your PS5. Those are the ones that support super speed USB. After that, go back to the settings menu. Scroll all the way down to debug settings, then select package installer. Here, you'll see the PKG files for the homebrew apps and the PS4 backup game. Go ahead and install them. You can either select Install All to install everything at once or install them one by one. Let's start by installing the homebrew apps first. Once that's done, we'll install the PS4 backup game. Wait for the installation to complete. Alright, it's done. Now go back to the PS5 home screen under the Games tab. You'll see the newly added icons for the homebrew apps, ItemZflow and PS5 Xplorer, as well as the PS4 backup game. Let's test the PS4 backup game first. As you can see, it launches and runs just fine. Now let's try running the homebrew apps. Both of them work perfectly too. So, how about PlayStation 5 backup games? In order to launch a PlayStation 5 backup game, we need to scan for it in ItemZflow. So, open ItemZflow again, then run the cover app. Inside the cover app, choose Scan app. ItemZflow will begin scanning both the internal and external storage devices, including the SSD we plugged into the PS5 earlier. If it detects any PS5 backup games, it will show a confirmation message. Here, we can see that it detected one PS5 game on our SSD. Click OK to continue. Now, you'll see the game cover for the PS5 backup game appear in the app. To launch it, simply select the game and hit launch. Great, the game runs successfully. Let's go ahead and close it for now. As you can see, the PS5 game cover has also appeared on the home screen. You can now launch it directly from there. However, keep in mind that if you restart the PS5, you'll need to run it again through ItemZflow. Okay, we've completed the steps to install and run homebrew apps and backup games. Now, before I wrap up, there's one more important step I want to show you. During the jailbreak process earlier, the payload that was activated ETA-hen was loaded from save game data. So the question is, what if we want to update the ETA-hen payload or activate a different payload that isn't included in the save game? In this next step, I'll show you how. First, let's go back to the computer. Head over to the GitHub page for PS5 Lua Loader, then click Code and choose Download Zip. Once the download is complete, extract the zip file. Now separate the PS5 Lua Loader folder that's inside the save data directory. Let's open the folder. Here, you'll see two files, autoload.txt and a payload file for the FTP server. You can add or replace this payload file with any payload you want to activate when running the jailbreak. For example, let's say I want to update the ETA-hen payload to the latest version. First, I'll download the updated ETA-hen binary file. Let's assume this is the latest version. Then I'll copy it into the PS5 Lua Loader folder. Since I'll be using this new ETA-hen payload instead of the FTP server payload, I'll delete the existing FTP server payload file. Next, we need to edit the autoload.txt file. On the last line, type the exact name of the new payload file, including the extension. So here, I'll type etahen.bin. Make sure the spelling and capitalization match the actual file name. If you want to load more than one payload, just type each one on a new line. After that, don't forget to save the file. Then copy the entire PS5 Lua Loader folder to the root directory of your USB drive. I've already plugged in the USB drive, so let's go ahead and copy it over. Once done, safely eject the USB drive and plug it into the PS5. Okay, before we continue, here's an important note. Any payload stored on the USB drive can be loaded directly as long as the USB drive is plugged in. So if it's a payload you only use occasionally, like an FTP server, that's totally fine to run from the USB drive. However, if it's a payload you'll use all the time, like the updated ETA-hen, it's better to copy the PS5 Lua Loader folder directly to the PS5's internal storage. That way, you don't have to keep plugging in the USB every time you run the jailbreak. In the next step, I'll show you how to copy the payload to the PS5's internal storage. Alright, first make sure the jailbreak is active, because we're going to run the homebrew app PS5 Xplorer. If it is, go ahead and launch the app. Here, select Root Access. Then navigate to the USB drive by pressing the left or right shortcut button on your controller. Just press left or right to switch over to the USB drive. Now highlight the PS5 Lua Loader folder, then press the triangle button and select Copy. Next, go back to the root directory of the PS5's internal storage by pressing the circle button twice. Open the data folder, then press triangle again and choose Paste. Okay, it's done. The payload we want to load is now saved in the PS5's internal storage. You can now exit the PS5 Xplorer app. For the next jailbreak session, the payload that will be activated is the one saved in the internal storage we just copied, or from the USB drive, if the USB drive is plugged into the PS5. Alright, that wraps up the full tutorial on how to jailbreak your PS5, install homebrew apps, run backup games for both PS4 and PS5, and update or manage your payloads manually. I hope this guide was helpful and easy to follow, especially for those of you just getting started with PS5 jailbreaking. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to help out. And if this video helped you, don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss any future tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.